So I started this as an opportunity to just sort of like be a diary, like a diary of where we are right now and sort of your participation in the project. So I was just wondering if you could share with us just what your topic is, the title of your topic, and maybe what it's about.
Okay. The title of my topic is Group Dynamic Through the Social Justice Lens. So a lot of the discussion is actually just taking a look at how do we put into practice and into practice in a Taiko group. So how do we, a lot of it is based on how do we communicate with each other? How do we communicate with each other when there's a conflict or a stress point, right? Because when everything is fine, then you can pretty much communicate however you are comfortable. It's those stress points. And a lot of it is about practicing, again, that Bruce Lee quote that you brought in about, it's that the moments of duress that you rely on the training. So you can say, and this is a lot of just the learning from being in Raw, is like, you can say you use nonviolent communication, right? We recommend and invite everyone to use nonviolent communication, but if you don't practice it when the emotional level is up here and everybody is upset, and you have to pull it down and be like, as awkward and synthetic as it feels to use that nonviolent, like, when da 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 da, I feel da da da, I need da da da, I request those templates, then you're not putting your activism and social justice methods and tools into place. So it's just talking about those things. And a lot of our discussion has kind of veered towards individual groups, and what I would say a lot of people are coming in saying, I don't even know how to enter into the conversation about anti-racism, right? I don't even know how to start the conversation. So what does that mean? So we've had discussions about, well, what is your value system in your group, and what is the cultural agreements that you have in your group. So two kind of foundational things, and articulating those things. The other thing that was brought up last time, which I sort of put it out to the group to think about, as far as like, especially the groups that are like, we just want to come and play Taiko, we don't want to talk politics. And I think this is still kind of an idea that is getting soaked into my body, which is the idea of, if white supremacy is just so prevalent that it's like that metaphor of a fish in water, like fish trying to describe water. If it's so prevalent that we are just in it, you could conclude that your normal Taiko group is based in a system of white supremacy. And if you can recognize that and acknowledge that, then hopefully the group will want to shift away from that and find a different norm. And for the group to shift to another norm means you have to bring in those conversations. And that it's not, it can't be like sidelined as political conversations. But it's still hard. I don't know how you do that.
Totally. It's hard. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work for yourself too. What do you think about, I guess just as a last question, why did you think this is important right now to bring this topic forward? Now is like, when I speak of now, we're facing of this really interesting, challenging combination of health crisis, pandemic, as well as this transformative awareness moment within our communities. So why did you bring this forward at this moment in time?
You mean that specific topic?
Yeah, like when you were brought forward into coming into this program, I loved how everyone just had so much diversity, but also I'm super curious, why were you compelled to bring this forward?
Well, I have kind of two answers. One, Karen asked us in the peer session, I think, last time, why we volunteered to do this. And then I said, it would have taken a lot for me to not volunteer being in a group like Raging Asian Women. Like, it's almost an obligation for me. Like, I think I would feel a lot of shame if I hadn't. Like, I that's part of the activism. Like, why wouldn't I? Like, obviously I would have to. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna have to unpack that some other time. But the second thing is I wanted my initial volunteering that I wanted to do was just to investigate internalized racism. But I think you or somebody else also covered that, and that was more for personal desire to like unpack my stuff. And but it was actually talking with Mila about it, and she said, "Well, what about like group dynamic in social justice lens? Because that's what Raw does all the time. Like since its inception, is like yes, there's the external activism we do, but a lot of the work is all internal and how we face all our internalized sexism and racism and gender stuff, like, and in a way, because we had um, excluded ourselves into such a very specific group, as in like Asian woman identified group. There in the beginning, I think there was this idea that like all these certain issues wouldn't be there, but what we discovered was like, oh yeah, they're all there, it's right here. And they all came out and we got to like grapple with all of it together. I totally lost my train of thought. So I thought the group dynamic through social justice lens was a way I could share more of my experience and knowledge, what I've learned, what Raw had to learn and unlearn and relearn, like for decades. And still, it's still hard.
That's an important message, though. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you're doing the work. You clearly have a history of, you know, sort of some foundational basis, but it's still hard. And I think, yeah, and we were just talking about this beforehand, like how so we were like, oh, okay, check, done. You know, it's like no,
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, and I shared this. My participants were laughing because we were talking about calling out and calling in. And I was like, oh, I've been called out so many times.
Yeah.
Just so many times, and also got called in, and I've done my calling out. Like, and again, back to the practice of like,
Yep.
once you experience it, and then once you do it, like, it doesn't become so horrendous, right? It just becomes like, this is the practice. You know when to call in and you know when to call out. You know when someone is calling you out, whether what you need to do to hear them and adjust or fix or whatever. And sometimes they call you out and you go, fuck you. And you know, you start to, but if you don't get the practice the first time, second time you get called out, it's like,
I know, you freak out, like, oh my gosh, I must be so terrible, and you go through all that like trauma crisis thing. Yes, I also, yep, I've been through that journey as well. Okay, I'm gonna end the recording.